Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Good Advice Podcast. You've come to the right place to learn how to do business better, and we're going to be talking about a favorite of the channel, a business that we've spoken about many times on the show, and the ways that they have gone above and beyond for customers. And it's no surprise, they have a long history of doing this kind of thing. So we'll be talking about a certain thing that made the rounds on social media this last week. But before we dive in, here's a word from one of the incredible businesses that sponsors the podcast. And don't forget, you can always check out more of the Good Advice Podcast wherever you are in your business journey. There's always good advice for you. You can follow us wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. All right, here's a quick ad. We'll be back soon. When disaster strikes in your home, do you know who to count on? I'm talking about when water damage, fire damage, or mold becomes a problem in your house. You need someone that you can trust who's going to get your house back in working order. That's why I love recommending Best Option Restoration here in Northwest Arkansas. Best Option Restoration is the perfect choice for when you need that initial response for damage in your home. They're a national leader here in our Northwest Arkansas community, and they are restoration specialists that can give you the peace of mind you need when you're facing the unthinkable. Your home is somewhere special, which is why you need someone who sees the value in your home and wants to get you taken care of as quickly and efficiently as possible. Best Option Restoration is so committed to helping you with your home that they have an answer line that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where you can talk to an actual person about getting a specialist out to your home and resolving whatever damages you're seeing in your house. So if you experienced fire damage, water damage, or discovered mold in your home, call Best Option Restoration today to restore your house back to the home you love. Call 479-458-8840 or click the link in the episode description to contact Best Option Restoration today. All right, I'm excited to talk about this today. We haven't talked about Chick Fil-A in a while. It's been a while. It's been a little bit. Not for any reason. I mean, it just hadn't come up, I guess. But we have talked about Chick Fil-A many times on the channel. Not for any reason in particular. I'm not really that huge of a Chick Fil-A fan. I think the food's fine. I think the food's good. I enjoy the food. I don't think it is the best food you'll ever eat in your entire life, but I will say it is a cut above any fast food option that you're going to eat. And it's hard to, when you look at Chick Fil-A and you look at other fast food restaurants, it's not hard to see a difference in quality. In fact, in the news this last week, we heard reported that Wendy's will be shutting down hundreds of stores and Pizza Hut will also be shutting down hundreds of stores, which is too bad because I remember being younger and I think I was in high school. Dude, I don't know what this was called. It was like a value menu or that's McDonald's, but whatever they called it, they had like a 99-cent menu at Wendy's. And we'd get out of school, we'd go get 2 double stacks, we'd get nuggets and fries, and each of those things were 99 cents. So you'd spend $5 or less, which was great for a high school student. But the food was good. It was good. And then I remember they got rid of the double stack, and I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? This stuff's so good. And then, eventually they did bring it back at a higher price point. And, I just got to say, I tried Wendy's maybe 6-7 years ago. I thought, a little bit of nostalgia is hitting me. I think I'm going to give it a shot. And it was pretty gross. I got like some chicken sandwich and it was gross. Like the lettuce was brown. The mayonnaise was just like it was just like clumpy. The whole thing was gross. It was a very gross experience. And, these were the days before people did, how you see like the people who do the camera on their dashboard and it's them like eating something in their car. And there's like a whole culture around this, by the way, which I think the whole concept of this is very interesting. It's never anywhere else. It's always in the car. And just seeing, a various amount of people who like that's their whole deal is eating food in their car. And I'm not really complaining or knocking it. I just think it's interesting that that has become a thing. But if you had had a camera on me back in the day, you would have seen a look of disgust as I took a bite into this sandwich and just thought, Dude, what happened to Wendy's? And this was years ago, by the way. This was, again, 6, 7, maybe 8 years ago. And I don't think I've eaten it since. I think maybe I've had it like 1 or 2 times, just like while traveling since. It's never been a great experience. So, not surprised to see shutting down hundreds of stores. And then similarly with Pizza Hut as well, shutting down hundreds of stores. And, I think what's interesting, by the way, is you can always tell when a company is struggling because things that were they were just part of the experience are now behind a fee or a price point or what have you. And a tiny example of this is I remember when I was younger, we'd get Pizza Hut and they'd ask, do you want any Parmesan or chili flakes or red pepper flakes, whatever it is? And we'd say, yeah. And they would just like, they would just drop a handful into the bag or onto the box or whatever. Well, so we got Pizza Hut and this was maybe a year ago. We went and picked up Pizza Hut and I said, hey, can I get some Parmesan and some red pepper flakes? And they go, yeah, how many do you want? And I said, just a couple of each. And I saw on the register that they had added $5 to my total. And I was like, what's going on here? And they said, oh, it's 99 cents plus tax for each one. And I was like, this little thing is $1, which, it's like a 4 ounce, if even that, probably 2 ounce packet of seasoning. And I was it wasn't a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. But I will say I've noticed that businesses seem to have a real intentness around very small things like that. Like I kind of just envision some corporate suit who's like, we got to cut costs. What can we do to cut costs? And, suddenly you're not getting, it's like the whole shrinkflation thing. You're not getting as much food as you once did. The food tastes different. I remember the mac and cheese. As a kid, I thought this was like the best thing to eat in the world. And then they changed the recipe. They did cheaper ingredients. And then you eat it now and you're just like, ooh, this is gross. This is disgusting. Like, what's going on here? In fact, I was over at Briar Rose, which is, it's a breakfast place, like a bakery that isn't too far from here. But I was talking to the owner and I was just like, man, the food's so good. The food tastes really good. It tastes fresh. And I said, what's the secret? And she goes, well, we use real butter for starters. And I was like, that's it? And she's like, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of places. I mean, I can't make it much more complicated. A lot of places just don't use real butter. We use real butter. It's amazing how when you aren't using some kind of oil or, alternate, how the food can taste pretty good. But businesses do this because, it saves money. It's cheaper. The profit margins are more impressive and I got to give a shout out too to Sam's Club. I was over there the other day and they had the pizza hot dog combo, that's like $3 or $4. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad certain things are, they've stayed the same. There's still some nice little deals out there. Point being, you have companies that are really chasing profits and they are chasing every last penny. We're all experiencing companies raising prices and suddenly you're just like, dude, man, eating out for lunch is $20. Like, what is going on here? Or, you order a sandwich somewhere and it's like $18.95 and you're like, this was a sandwich. I could have made this for a couple of bucks at home. Like, what's going on here? But anyway, I want to talk about Chick Fil-A today. But before I do, hang on, let's see here. Let me pull up this graphic of what. Okay, here we go. I got it. So a friend of mine sent this to me last week, and I will say it did go viral on LinkedIn. The comments were really funny, by the way. People who called it fake. It's just funny, like whenever you post stuff and it does get traction, there's people who come out of the woodwork. You've never met these people. You've never heard of these people before. But they're like, this is fake. Someone accused it of being like a very clever marketing ploy to get more traction for Chick Fil-A. And it's like, man, a friend of mine took a picture with this phone and sent it to me. Like that's pretty much all there is to it, you know. But I did put this post out, and this is not the first time Chick-fil-A has been talked about on the podcast. I've talked about how they treat their employees. I've talked about their average pay and how it's usually significantly higher than many of the competitors. I talked about them from a customer service standpoint, where it's a real story, a customer dropped their phone from their car window and it slid down a storm drain. Well, the Chick-fil-A manager took off the manhole cover, went down, got the phone, climbed back up, gave it to the customer. I mean, like, dude, what? Do you think your average other fast food? I think there's certain fast food companies where you walk in and they're like, "There's a customer. What do we do?" And I don't want to blast any certain fast food restaurant, but there's a couple that come to mind where I'm like, I've just never met anyone who's like, "Let's go eat there." I've never met anyone who's like, "Yeah, I was eating at blank fast food place." Like, there's just a couple that come to mind that I'm like, do people eat there? Like, I just don't know. I never hear about it. So I guess I kind of wonder if the employees are, kind of freaked out when a customer walks in the door. But with Chick-fil-A, you got somebody going down into a storm drain to get their phone for them. I talked also, this was like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I had another story I talked about. I don't remember the exact details. I think it was like a customer drove off like with their phone like on the hood of their car, like above their car or something. I don't remember exactly, but like the employee like ran them down like half a mile to tell them and like get it to them or something. Just people who go the extra mile. And it's no wonder why Chick-fil-A does so well. I mean, think about how opposite this stuff is for our capitalistic society and economy, which is built around how do we minimize our costs? How do we grow our profits? And Chick-fil-A has interestingly enough, as people find ways to cut costs, Chick-fil-A is investing in the customer experience. They're investing in spending dollars rather than saving dollars, and that's creating a premium experience. I think about how with the fast food drive-through, for years, this wasn't like a new thing. For years, you drive up to, the computer speaker box thing, whatever, and you order, and sometimes it's a weird experience. Sometimes the person can't hear you or you can't hear them. And I can think of a couple of times where I made an order and it was a simple order and the person was like, "Can you tell me if it's right on the screen?" And it was like totally wrong. And I was like, "No, that's not it." And then they tried again and I was like, "That's still not it." And then they eventually got it. And then I had another experience where I ordered something and the person like couldn't find the button, I guess. And they were like, "Can you tell me how much it says it is on the menu?" And I was like, I think it says $3.99." And like, "Oh, okay, I got it." The whole thing was weird. But you have kind of these weird experiences. Well, here is Chick-fil-A, who instead of just having someone behind a speaker, you have employees who are actually out in the drive-through, who are greeting people, who are talking to people. And it creates a different experience because someone, I guess Dan Cathy, or someone on that leadership team realized that it's just different when you look at someone eye to eye, when you speak to someone face to face. It's just a different experience. It just is. It's just different. Chick-fil-A, by the way, has continued to absolutely rock the fast food industry. They are doing so well, and there's so much more like we can talk about there. I mean, there's so much in intentionality they put behind opening new stores and getting the right people on the bus and all those things. And really, my intention wasn't even so much to brag endlessly about Chick-fil-A, because again, I think that the chicken sandwich, it's good, but it's also not the best chicken sandwich I've ever had in my entire life. I don't think the food is the best I've ever had in my entire life. But the experience is so good that it's hard not to appreciate what they've done to try to create a great experience for customers. So all that to say, back in the news today, and I posted this on LinkedIn. It got something like 130, 140 reactions to it, a bunch of comments. it did pretty well on LinkedIn. And I think it's because people saw it and realized, okay, this is interesting. This is different. Now, as you may have heard, we are discontinuing the penny. It At some point, the penny became no longer profitable to produce, and so in America, if you're using cash, there will not be the penny is being discontinued. So here's what I'll do. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna share not what Chick Fil-A did. I'm gonna share this notice on another restaurant. Another restaurant posted this, and then I'll talk about what Chick Fil-A did, and you'll already know. But here's what someone else posted. Again, this is not Chick Fil-A. It's a different fast food place. Excuse me. Please pay with exact change. Otherwise, we will have to round to the nearest 5 cents due to the penny cutoff. Thank you. Now, nothing really inherently wrong with this. It's not, it's not mean. It's not rude. It's not like a notice of like, we will not serve you, anything like that. I think it's perfectly polite and it's matter of fact. And it says, hey, you have to pay with exact change or we're going to round. I think, however, the implicit basis of this is something that I think is interesting to unpack because you have someone who's made this decision, who's made this notice, and it's interesting. There's almost I don't want to say blame. There is a sense of like the responsibility is shifted to the customer, where if you buy something for 8 cents, they're going to round it up to 10. They're going to take off 2 extra pennies. They're going to add 2 extra pennies. Excuse me. So if something has 8 cents and change, they're going to add it up to 10. And what they're going to say to you is they're going to blame you. They're going to say, well, we do have this notice in the window. It says you have to have exact change. You didn't have exact change, so it's your fault. And for the sake of how we're going to run our business, we are going to round that up to 10 cents. I have a problem with this only in the sense of, again, it's not mean. It's not impolite. It's not someone being ugly to their customers. But it is someone who I think really struggles to understand the easy wins in business. And sometimes I got into this conversation a couple of years ago, and I think I talked about it on the podcast, but I was talking to a business owner and we were talking about, winning over your customers. And the person basically said, well, I don't have an endless budget for stuff like that. Because I think I was talking about like maybe a gift I'd gotten one of my customers. And I've done lots of gifts over the years, some of them very expensive, some of them several $100s, things like that. And I do that because I want my customers to know I really appreciate them. And especially customers that I've had long term. I'm really constantly thinking about, okay, how do I make this person know that I appreciate them? And for me, I've just always considered it the cost of doing business. It's like, yep, I'm going to spend $300 here, $400 here. And, and to be fair, by the way, I think that's probably the most I've spent now that I think about it. I think I said several $100s. I don't think I've ever spent quite more than that. I think it's been probably around $300, $400. And again, it's just, I see it as the cost of doing business, just letting your customer know you appreciate them. But in this case, you have someone, or rather getting back to what I was saying, the person I was talking to was like, well, I don't have that kind of money. I can't, my margins are so slim. And I was like, you don't need that kind of money. Think about this. Most businesses are sending pre-printed thank you cards, if any thank you cards at all. Most businesses they're calling you only when it's time to re-up. They're messaging you only when it's time for a new deal or a new subscription or, hey, here's the latest thing we want to sell you. What would it be like to write a card to your customer asking for nothing and just saying thank you and doing it by hand? What would that cost you? The cost of a stamp, an envelope, the ink in your pen? I mean, we're talking a couple of bucks. Which, for me, I'm so much more digital nowadays. I still send snail mail every now and then to customers, and new customers typically get like a welcome package and, just like a small little, just something small usually. But I sent a video off to a new customer who wasn't local and they weren't even in the United States. And I sent a video and I said, hey, I don't need anything. I just want to tell you, thank you so much for your business. I really appreciate it. And everybody gets some version of that whenever they work with good advice. And he was like, hey, that was really nice of you. Like that was a really nice touch. And that's all he said. It wasn't like you changed my life or like, wow, I can't believe you do business this way. Just the person said, hey, that was a really nice touch. And for me, that was enough. That was someone saying, hey, this was different enough that I noticed it. I think successful business is often understanding this concept. I just talked to a friend of mine who runs a multi-million-dollar business, great business, and we had this exact conversation about how winning customers over is so simple. It's so simple and it's so inexpensive. And a lot of times we think it's going to cost an arm and a leg. Rarely does it really. More often than not, it is the small things that you can do to really keep a customer happy and knowing that they individually matter to you. So in the case of Chick Fil-A, so I read what one company did. Here's what Chick Fil-A put up. A notice about pennies. Due to the discontinuation of the penny, we're rounding down cash transactions to the nearest nickel. It's a small change that brings a few cents back your way. That's it. Hey, if you buy from us, we're just always going to round down to the nearest nickel. Here is someone, whoever made this decision at Chick Fil-A, here is someone who understands service. When you come and eat here, you don't have to worry about exact change. We'll eat the cost. We'll round it down. And think about this. With inflation, I mean, think about how much a few pennies is worth today versus, 20 years ago, I guess, or 10 years ago or when I was a kid. And this is such an insignificant amount. And here's a business owner who realized, hey, and I don't know, by the way, I don't know if this is like a Chick-fil-A wide thing or if this was just like the certain franchise, because they empower their franchisees to make these kinds of decisions. But here's a franchise who realizes something about customer service and realizes something about winning over people long term. Because now the responsibility is no longer on the customer. It's, hey, you just come and enjoy your food. We're going to handle the rest. This isn't to say that with your customers that there aren't expectations there and that there aren't boundaries there. It's not that, and I have this conversation almost all the time with my customers, not just at the start of our relationship, but I mean, I have certain longer term customers who I inherited from the business I bought, where I have to sort of reestablish some of those guidelines where they're used to being business being done in a certain way. Or I had a customer who emailed me Sunday morning for an urgent update to their website. And it was just like, I'm not gonna get to that. It's Sunday. It's a day with my kids, and I know it's urgent for you. And you can know that I obviously respect our relationship and appreciate your business, but I'm not going to drop everything to make this update that is urgent for you. And again, it's not anything personal. It's not anything rude. I didn't say any long-winded. I didn't say anything like that. It was just, first thing Monday morning, I'm on it. First thing Monday morning, I'm putting everything aside. I'm going to take care of this for you. But Sunday, that's family time. That's what's going to happen. So it's not to say that you don't have these boundaries and you don't have these kinds of conversations sometimes. But again, here's a franchisee who's realizing, how do you really win over people? For your own business, ask yourself, what would that look like? What does it look like to really wow a customer? And one of the things that we've talked about a lot on the show is that too often people think that a transformative experience for your customer is being kind. And so I talk to business owners and I say, hey, tell me about your business. They say, oh, well, we do great customer service. And I'm like, really? Well, tell me, what is great customer service? Oh, we greet them when they come in and we're polite. And it's like, okay, so you didn't cuss them out. You didn't scream at them and you weren't mean to them. And I'm just going to let you know that almost every other business is treating customers the same way. You have to understand that this is the bare minimum. It's the bare minimum that most businesses are going to do. Most small businesses. I do think that actually, if you're doing those kinds of things, it probably is a little bit different and noticeably different from, major national brands that, don't always employ the most intent people. But think about this. Most companies, most experiences are going to be like this. And what you have to remember is that if everyone is doing it to your customer, it feels the same. It feels the same. And when your experience feels the same between two businesses, the only thing that's going to stand out is price. That's it. The only differentiator is going to be price. People are always interested in the differences between businesses, whether they realize it or not. They're latching on, and those differences are not always subtle. You think about two burger joints and the flavor of one versus the other, or the experience of one versus the other, or what all comes with the food when you order food versus the other. And if everything's like itemized out and you have to pay for every single thing you want, even like the sauces to eat with it, we recognize differences. And if everyone has the same level of politeness and professionalism, that is not a differentiator. It's not something to hang your hat on. And it's not something that's going to cause your business to be long-term successful. But think about this for your business. What could you be doing that really shows your customer, hey, I recognized you, I noticed you, you came into the store, and I made sure that you knew that we noticed. And I'll tell you, I do lots of things. My calendar on my phone has so many birthdays on it. It has anniversaries of businesses. This was not like that exciting to talk about. I have a friend whose grandson died, and I have the anniversary of his death on there. And every year I drop a card in the mail, say, hey, I'm thinking about you. It's not to say, wow, I'm so virtuous. It's these little things. It's little things. For many businesses, I know how long they've been in business. For many businesses, I know when they started their business, like to the day. I keep these things in mind. I've sent birthday cakes. I've sent cards. I've sent gifts. I've sent lunch coupons, gift cards, what have you. So many things. And again, not even just things I've spent money on. Sometimes it's just a note to follow up with someone. Hey, how you doing? I mean, I got a customer right now that as soon as I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to record a video and say, hey, we haven't talked in a few months. I got nothing to sell you, but you're a customer, and I just want you to know I appreciate you. Now, understand something. This is not a hack. It's not a cheat code to retain 100% of your customers. And it's not a cheat code to close every sale. You're still going to lose business. You're still going to do kind things for people, and they're still going to churn, move on, what have you. I had a guy who I inherited him with the maintenance plan website that I bought last year. And he asked for some help he had a few websites that he needed some urgent help with. And, the way I saw it was we had several websites together. And like I said, he had an urgent issue. And he said, man, I could really use some help. And I said, all right, I'll give you a hand. I'll drop everything. And I did. I dropped everything that day. And I said, let me give you a hand. And then he said, yeah, well, I mean, what's it going to cost me? And I said, you know what, man, because I can see here you've been a long-term customer. It's going to be on the house. And I just appreciate your business. And he said, oh, that's great. Thank you. So I spent a few hours helping him. And you know what? The very next day, I got an email. We're ending our relationship. And a mild apology. Hey, this was actually already in plan before we talked. I do appreciate you giving me a hand, but unfortunately, it's time to, and I realized in hindsight, the reason this was so urgent for this person was because he was transitioning the websites away and he needed everything to be, done properly. So not only did he end the relationship the very next day, but he appealed to my good nature to get these things taken care of immediately so that he could continue to grow his business and what have you. And that's his prerogative. He's running a business. Feelings aren't hurt. It's not a big deal. But the point is, you don't always win. And it's not about, that's what I try to help business owners understand sometimes is it's not about winning every deal and closing every sale. It's just about the way you do business. And the more you start to think about this, the less this will become a transactional thing where I do X and I gain Y. I sent the card and I got the sale, and you won't even think about it. You'll stop evaluating and measuring things by their outcomes. And instead, this will just become a value of how you do business. And what I will say is that people begin to notice. People will begin to notice. They'll begin to refer you. And more importantly, they will stay with you long term because of how you do business. Little food for thought today. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Good Advice Podcast today. I so appreciate you. If you're a first-time listener, don't forget you can always subscribe and follow the podcast wherever you are. And also, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/goodadvice. If you want to support the podcast, you can do it for as low as $5 a month. You can check that out. Hey, I so appreciate you guys listening to the show and the businesses who sponsor episodes on the podcast. That's today's Good Advice. We'll catch you later. See ya.